Hello, and welcome to episode 22 of the Brew from the Bothy podcast. This one is called Wrapping Up 2025. I thought I'd be recording this like all serene. I've done all the things. I'm ready. Off to see friends. I've done all the cooking. I've done all the present wrapping. I've done all of my commissions. And it couldn't be further from that truth. I am like secretly panicking. Well, not so secretly now because I've just told you. I like to be really organised, and I probably am more organised than I think. But right now, I am absolutely panicking about the amount of work and stuff that I have to do in the next couple of days. So this might not be such a serene, calm, let's look to 2026 podcast. I had thought it would be a bit more like meadow dress than I'm actually feeling right now. So there's a bit more, not angst, but like there's a lot of underwater paddling going on. Let's say it that way. Let's dig in. Let me tell you what I have got for you this time. We've got some what I'm wearing, and I've got a couple of things that are off my hook, and also some things that are going onto my hook, off my needles, on my needles. There has been some yarn that was incoming, and I've been out and about a little bit, and I want to show you some of the things that I want to work on over the festive period, because I've been around the house, collected all the things that handmade things that either aren't working for me or I'm not loving, and I need to change them up a little bit. And so I want to show you some of those and what I'm going to do about them, so you can see how I'm taking whips and FOs and moving them on, hopefully, or at least getting them prepared to move on in the new year. Let's start with what I am wearing. I thought I'd go with a cowl today for a couple of reasons. One, I just got this one back from John Arbon Textiles. This is called the Broad Oak Hill cowl, and it was in their annual number 2, and one of the reasons I've just got it back is because they've actually just done digital versions of the annual that are up for sale on their website. So I'll pop a link in for that, because for £6 you can get this pattern, and it will work up in a sport weight or in a DK as a 6 colour gradient as well. And there's also a pair of socks, a shawl and a top. Pretty good value for money, I think. £6 for 3 knitted patterns, 1 crochet pattern. But let me show you this in a bit more detail. It's done on a Mobius loop. What I particularly love, it makes use of post stitches, and sometimes when you look at it you see a triangle pattern forming, one pointing up, the next pointing down, and then depending on where else you see it, like there, it's just changed for me, it might not have done for you, I can see increasing sizes of half a square. So it's got a little bit of an optical illusion thing going on with it, which I really like. And it's not to do with the colours, it's to do with the post stitches and which bit you look at first. The same thing happens with the DK version. Even with the more gradients, you still get this kind of optical illusion effect. So it's got a really lovely squidgy texture to it because of those post stitches. And because John Arbon have just put the digital versions of the annuals up, they've also done kits. So they've kitted this cowl up. So if you're looking for an extra little Christmas present, it would be quite a luxurious Christmas present because it's really lovely yarn. But that kit is available for the DK in the 6 colours. So it's 100 grams of one of the colours and 50 grams of each of the others. So a decent amount of yarn to go at. I'll pop the link in there in case you want to have a look at the kits, and also in case you wanted to buy the digital version of the annual if you didn't get the hard copy. But it's a really enjoyable, repetitive cowl to make up. I'm going to make another one of these in a different type of gradient, probably in the sport weight, because when now the pattern's back and it's mine, I haven't done anything about it for years, but I will be next year, and I want to show it off in a slightly different light because this yarn sadly is no longer available. This was an Alpaca Supreme, which is just, it was alpaca and silk, so it's really luxurious, but luckily it's now mine again, so I just get to wear this one. I'm happy about that. Before I put this back on, Look at me, I've got fluff on me everywhere. Sorry, it's a disgrace. And before I put that one back on, I want to show you one of the things which is off my needles, which is, oh, I love this so much. I love this. This is a cowl that I was working on. You might remember me mentioning that I was working with West Yorkshire Spinners Morris DK yarn, and I was loving it. It's a mix of Blue-Faced Leicester, I think it's Blue-Faced Kerry Hill, which must be a crossbreed, and Massam. Really nice to work with. Proper sturdy wool, but it's also very soft. And I was working on this probably about 2 months ago. It's so warm and toasty, but I love how much fun this cowl is. It's called the Retro Cowl, and it's currently in Inside Crochet issue 185, but it's not in the main body of the magazine. It's actually in a Morris DK supplement that they were doing. So when I was making this, I didn't know who the other designers were going to be and what the other designs were going to be. And there's this beautiful shawl by Anna Nikopirowicz, and then I think Claire Montgomery and Kath Webb have also done designs in it as well. So look at that gorgeous shawl. That's Anna's. And then what else have we got? We've got the Marigold Wrap, which is by Kath Weber. And we have got the Medibel Scarf and Hat, which is, I'm pretty sure that's Claire. Oh, it's Cassie Ward. Sorry, I said Claire Montgomery. It's Cassie Ward in there. So that's 4 extra patterns in that copy. But this model is stunning. This is one of the reasons I love doing magazine work, is because it gives me like a diversity of photography in terms of the people, shapes, sizes, skin colour, but also just the type of photography as well. I love, oh, it looks so good. I even love the detail of how the shirt mirrors the colours that I've used in the cowl. I really am so happy with the photography, and one of the beauties of working with the likes of John Orban Textiles Inside Crochet is that I get the photography back and then I can use it. So happy. Love it, love it, love it. This is so much fun to work up. It's 5 50-gram hanks, so for the different colours, and there's quite a range of colours to choose from in this Morris DK yarn. And it's just one stitch, and it's extended double crochet, which would be extended single crochet in US, and you're just using it for colour work, and it's such a lovely pattern repeat, so easy to get in your head as soon as you've done the first couple of rows, and you could do it with all sorts of different colours, go really clashy, more clashy than I have. What's the word? Come on, Fay. There's so much going on in my brain. What am I looking for? The imagination. The inspiration for this cowl was the moquette fabric that you got on old buses. Do you remember that really scratchy wool fabric that you used to get on bus seats and tube seats and airplane seats? It's designed on that, basically, for something. They were always quite garish, but like beautifully so, very mid-century modern colours. So that was my inspiration. That was what I was trying to challenge in this cowl, and I think I pulled it off. I feel really good about this. This is quite colourful for me, but it works up really well in issue 185 because it is slam-packed full of colour. Rosina's got a pattern in here. My friend Heather has got a pattern in here. I am eyeing up. I really quite like this bath mat. I have a handmade bath mat that I made at the moment, but I would be absolutely happy with doing another one. And I like this cosmetics pouch as well. So although I'm not like a really bright person and I like my neutrals, there's loads of stuff in this bright zingy one that I would do here. As if by magic, I'm pretty sure that's Rosina's. Hold on, I think Rosina and Heather, oh no it's not. So there's Heather's bag, and then we have got, let me just find Rosina's, what she's got in here. Oh, it's a cowl. And there's Rosina's cowl in there. So there's all sorts in this issue. It's very bright, very colourful. And I feel like my retro cowl is right at home in there. Look at those colours. This pink and this and this. I love them all actually. And I like that the brown is a bit of a rusty brown. It's not like a, for want of better words, poo brown. I'm sure you do get poo that colour. Enough poo chat, stop it. One of the things I am going to be putting on my hook in between Christmas and New Year, when my friend Heather and I, of Heather who's got the bag in Inside Crochet, we get together and we now have a betwixtmas hook on, and I am going to make a 3-colour version of that cowl using river knits. This is one that I was given by Becky and Marcus because it was a trial one when they were working up their wonky veg colourways. And so when I was down at the River Knits open day, I got Becky to help me out and pick 2 other colours that would work either side of it. So, you know, the green is complementary with the greens that are in there, and the teal is complementary with all of the blues. We did look at picking out purple, but it was just too much. There was too much purple within this already, but those should look fabulous together. So imagine this cowl with just 3 colours moving up through the options. I'm quite excited for this. So this is what I do get to get on my hooks in between Christmas and New Year. And I think it'll work up fairly quickly. That doesn't mean to say that the pattern will work up that quickly, but I will get the rights back for this in March, so I would love to have this version ready for when I get the pattern rights back for that one. That's what I'm working towards. Right, let's get my cowl back on now that I've showed that one off. It probably won't rearrange in such a lovely way. Let's try it. If not, that'll do. We'll just plonk it on. Let me just have a quick slurp. It is 3 minutes to 2 here. I've got every blind open. I've got the double doors into my toilet here open because there's a window down there. I'm just inviting every pixel of light that I can into my office to be able to record this podcast. It's going to get dark very quickly. It took forever to get light this morning. Right, let's move on quickly to what is on my needles, or what is off my needles first, which is the little dinky-doo socks that I made for Jenny's youngest. I said last time that they weren't going to match because it would waste too much yarn, and so he's got unmatchy-matchy, mismatched socks, which I'm pretty sure he's going to love because he doesn't give 2 toffees about stuff matching, basically. So they now get wrapped up and put in with all of his presents. So this was Yarnsmith's Merino Prince yarn, which is a sock yarn. It's 75/25. I did not love working with this, but I'm going to talk about the different yarns in a minute, because on my needles is, let me just find it, a pair for his older brother, and he wants just plain black socks. I'm ready just to add the toe onto this. Disgracefully, he keeps on growing and he's now got the same size feet as his mum, so in my head I have still got it that I can knock out a couple of pairs of socks inside of a day for the 2 boys. Not anymore. The eldest one's feet are now so big, it's a lot more work, but for as long as he wants socks, I will keep on making him socks. So this yarn I wanted to test out. I have bought some in pink, which I've showed you before, but I wanted to get some in the black to test it out for his socks, and it is Drops Fable. The colour is black, it's number 400. I've popped a link for it in the drop down below, and it is 205 metres for 50 grams, so 410 for 100 grams. That's 224 metres, so 448 metres on 100 grams. 75% wool, 25% polyamide, so really standard, in the same ballpark as Regia as opal, as your standard sock yarns. I'm pretty impressed with this. I haven't used it before and I'm pretty happy. It's split a little bit, but not a lot, and it feels not dissimilar to West Yorkshire Spinners' signature 4-ply, if you're familiar with that yarn, which I did also have some in black, and I've pulled it out of my stash. It wasn't enough to do his socks, unfortunately, but what it's done is given me a good comparison of the two. So of all of the socks that I'm going to talk about today, because I have also started, also on my needles, are the green woodpecker ones. This is West Yorkshire Spinners' signature 4-ply in their birds colourway. I started this as the pair for my postie. So I've got West Yorkshire Spinners' signature, Drops Fable, and the Yarn Smith's Merino, and I thought I would just talk you through what my absolute favourite ones to work with are, because there are 3 different yarns that are very suitable for socks. Absolute favourite is West Yorkshire Spinners, in part because it's a little bit plumper. The twist on it is really high. It doesn't split for me at all, and I love working with it because I know it's British yarn. It's spun in Britain, and it's got a little bit of BFL in it, which does Blueface Leicester, which is one of our softest UK yarns, and it is just softer and nicer to handle than the Drops Fable. The Drops Fable is a really good second though, and the West Yorkshire Spinners is now £9.50 for 100 grams, which I still think is really affordable for sock yarn, because I will get a pair of socks out of 60 grams of that. So out of 300 grams, I can easily get 3 pairs of socks. But the Drops Fable isn't that far behind it, and this is obviously unwashed. If you're listening, you can probably hear me. There's just a bit more like crunch to it. The West Yorkshire Spinners is softer for sure, but this feels like it would be really sturdy, and I'll be intrigued to see how it washes and what that does to the yarn. It's created quite a nice dense fabric, but the difference is this is about £2.30 for 50 grams. So for 100 grams to do a pair of socks, £4.60, so it's less than half the price of the West Yorkshire Spinners. It's spun in the EU, so like it's really decent yarn. It doesn't say where the wool has come from, but it's spun in the EU. So I thoroughly recommend this if you're new to socks and you want to get to something that is quite like West Yorkshire Spinners and you don't want the £9.50 100 gram price point. Fable's a really good alternative. Like I say, it was just a little bit more splitty. I'm never going to work with Yarn Smith's merino sock again. I don't like it. Even now it feels fake and plasticky in my hands. It's too soft, it feels fake, and I don't like it, and I really didn't enjoy working with it either. It was quite splitty, didn't like it. So I had another 100 grams of this. I'm going to give it away or put it into the charity shop with the rest of the skein of this yarn, because I don't want to work with it again. So West Yorkshire Spinners, absolute favourite. Drops Fable, really good second. I would put this in terms of feel, I'd put this in the bands with Regia and Opal. It's got that same sturdy, slightly rusticness to it, not quite as soft as West Yorkshire Spinners. The other reason I pulled out my West Yorkshire Spinners yarn is it can be so hard to get truly black yarn, and so I thought I would just show you the comparison between the two. I think if you're after an absolute true black, West Yorkshire Spinners have nailed it. I don't know if you can see on the screen, it's a very slight difference, but if you love black, and I know how much some people really love black, and the shade of the black really counts, the Drops Fable has an ever so slightly grey tinge to it, and the West Yorkshire Spinners is like a black yarn. So if you need a 4-ply black yarn and you want a bit of nylon in it, this is 75% wool, 25% nylon, and 35% of that. I don't know whether it's 35% of the wool content or 35% of the overall content is Blueface Leicester, so it's really nice to handle. But I think you can see what I can see. The true black is the West Yorkshire Spinners. I know the people that like black are very particular about it, so West Yorkshire Spinners is a good option. So like I said, with the one for the eldest, that just needs a toe adding, which hopefully I'll get to tonight, and then I will crack on with his other sock and get it ready before Christmas Day, hopefully. And then the sock for my postie will just be an ongoing, whenever I get them done. Like, she knows they're coming, but I've not promised them for Christmas, thankfully. And obviously post is about to take a break for a couple of days anyway, so when these are done, they'll be done, and I'll pass them to her and she can have nice toasty feet. Let's talk incoming yarn, because some stuff has arrived, but also we went to Shrewsbury. Every year we go shopping in Shrewsbury and go and try and buy stuff from little independent stores, and it's just a really lovely market town. It's got loads of indie stores, it's got high street if you need that as well. There's usually a market on with loads of little traders in. There's an amazing deli in Shrewsbury. We can get there on the train really easily, and the Christmas lights are really beautiful, the way they light up all of the buildings. They have lots of old Tudor buildings in Shrewsbury as well, and they all get lit up beautifully, so we really like going and having a day out there. I'll pop some video in so you can see what it is that I'm talking about. But one of my main reasons for going to Shrewsbury is because You and Ply, one of my local yarn shops, has moved. They're in the same area in the parade in Shrewsbury, just up from the train station, but they've moved into a bigger shop, and I wanted to go and say hello and give them some support and buy some yarn. And we had been, that morning before we'd gone to Shrewsbury, we'd gone for a nice big walk up on the Roaches to try and get the sunrise for the solstice eve, because that was when we were going to get the sun. And I saw the State of Matthew's hat. It was not looking that good, the last one that I made him, just because it's been very well used. And so I said that I would make him a slightly longer hat so he can do a double brim with it and keep his ears really nice and toasty when he's out in the hills, and he's going skiing in January, so I want to try and get this hat done for then. So I asked him what colour he would want, and his response was either a khaki green or an oatmeal brown. And so what I found for him that fitted his brief was the by Laxton's Sheep Soft DK. This is a blend of Blueface Leicester and Massam. I don't think it tells you exactly what the blend points are, but it is a blend of those two wools. And the thing about this particular yarn is it's spun by Laxton's, who are up in Yorkshire, and it says from fleece to finished yarn in less than 50 miles. Love that. This was, I think, £14.95, so for something that is reasonably local to me, completely British, I think that's a really good price point, and I love the colour of it as well. So that's in a DK, and it's coming out at 225 metres per 100 grams. Now, one of the things I was thinking about this is that that's the exact same meterage that all of West Yorkshire Spinners DK yarns come out at as well. So if you were looking to mix and match some different yarns together, you could use any of the West Yorkshire Spinners DK range, because they're all 225 metres per 100 grams. But you could potentially mix it with something like the Sheep Soft. One of the things I particularly love about Laxton's is the twist that they get on their yarn. I call it the Laxton's twist because I think you can actually identify, if you know your yarns and you know your wool, and a lot of indie dyers use Laxton's as well, you can start to identify that Laxton's twist. It's a really high twist, but the yarn is still quite plump. It's delightful to work with their stuff. That smells sheepy. I'm always here for stuff that smells sheepy. So that hit Matthew's brief, but then I saw that in You and Ply they also had Peer Gynt by Sandnes Garn, which people just are like losing their minds over. And I think I've got some in the house, but it wasn't the right colour, again, like my Drops Favo yarn. And I wanted to just have a little play with it. It is nice and soft. It's 100% wool. And this, I think, was £5.30 for 50 grams. But what I particularly love are all the little tweedy flecks. Now, this is a colour that I've just got Matthew into. I've just managed to like slowly cajole him into like greens. Long may it continue. When I first met that man 16 years ago, just 16, 17 years ago, he just wore like black band t-shirts. He had black hair, dark grey, black hair that was starting to go grey, and he just wore black and grey all the time. And slowly I've introduced more and more colour. I mean, it's like perverse that today I'm in black and grey, but I've just got him into this green, and he now wears like cranberry, pinky reds and mustard, and sometimes rusty orange as well, but this green I've just got him into. So when we met up for coffee again in Shrewsbury, I showed him the tune, and I was like, well, this is one that you told me you wanted, but this is the one that I also got. And he was like, yeah, I like the one you also got me. So I think he's going to get 2 hats, but we'll start with this one, the Peer Gynt. This is a really decent price point, and I think one of the reasons it is because it is 67% Norwegian wool and 33% Peruvian wool. And if you've ever tried some of the other sock yarns, if you find something that is called a Highland wool, then quite often I think that is Peruvian wool, and it's really hard wearing, really warm. Like some of my best socks are what the blend has been described as 75% Highland wool, 25% nylon polyamide. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to do him really well up on the mountains and up on the slopes. So this is very quickly going to be made into a hat for him. But I know what I want from the hat. I just need to go rummaging for a pattern, because I also want to create a very similar pattern in crochet. And there's no point in me talking about it because I've got so many other designs backed up before I get to that in crochet. But I might do this one as crocheted and buy somebody else's pattern and do this one as knitted. Let's see where I get to with that. But really lovely and soft. Like, I would do a jumper out of this. I can see why people are wanging on about this so much, because the price point is really good. The colours are nice. The twist is really good. But we'll see when I start working with it, because the proof is always in the pudding when you actually get a hook or a needle into something. The other thing that I got was, when I got the Drops Fable, I also got some black and white for socks for one of us. We'll see. It's actually called Salt and Pepper, which is pretty much what Matthew's hair is like these days. So I thought that might be quite good fun to give him socks that would match his head. I've got 2 of these, and I might do contrast because I'm going to have some of this one left, so I might just do like really simple contrast toes, heels and cuffs, and then whatever I've got left of that might make another pair of socks for somebody else. But that will all get used up because I love doing contrast, and sock wool never goes to waste with me unless I really don't like working with it, in which case life is just too short to work with bad sock yarn. And then I had a jumper quantity arrive, which I told you was going to arrive last time. This shouldn't be a shock to you, but it has arrived. It is the Navia Brushed Tradition. Now, I told you what I'm going to make with this. It's going to be a coast sweater, and I've told you that Jeanette's version of the coast sweater uses the Plotolupi, which is yarn that comes in a plate. What I've never done is shown you what that actually looks like in its plate. So this is Plotolupi. There's an end there. It is unspun, so it's one ply, even though that's not a thing. It's basically an unspun, kind of a roving, but it's incredibly friable. Like, it pulls apart because it isn't plied in any way. Now, it has got really nice long staple length because it's Icelandic yarn. But I know that is just not going to fare well on my super sensitive skin, and so I have swapped out the Plotaloopy for the Navia Brush Tradition, which I think is going to do the exact same thing. This probably looks a bit floofier, but when you actually work it, when you crochet or you knit with it, it does condense down depending on the gauge that you're using. But mainly what I want is that same fibrousness coming off to complete the look of the jumper. And let me just find that bit that I already pulled apart. Like, it's not dissimilar, so I think I'm gonna get a really good match. And the yardage is exactly the same on this yarn as it is for the Plotaloopy. I love working with this. I've got a blanket on the go that I'm working on at the moment, but I'm holding this with another strand of what is the Icelandic lace yarn, and that makes it a lot easier. So whilst sometimes I would like to use the right yarn for the pattern, I know that overall this is going to be easier because this isn't friable like this one is. It's nice and it's plied, and I'll be able to just fly through this jumper when I finally get it onto my hooks. I'm not sure when that will be. So a jumper quantity of this has arrived. I mean, I was quite good. I didn't buy the teal one with the £35 postage. I bought this from Rito Hobby, who I think are Danish. They're certainly in the EU somewhere. So that is all that has arrived into our little home. It's quite a lot. So I'm recording this a couple of days early because it's going live on Christmas Eve, and not even my dedication will stretch to recording a podcast on Christmas Eve. So I just wanted to quickly share with you how I'm trying to wrap up the rest of this year, and I'm trying to do it in quite an intentional way. I did think at this point I would also be talking to you about what my feelings are for 2026 and what I want to get out of 2026, but I think I'll save that for the next podcast. So we'll do this as a little bit of a wrap up of 2025, and then we'll start afresh with the turning of the year, and I'll tell you the kind of beats that I want to hit in 2026. So for the rest of my year, there isn't that much of it. It's Monday the 22nd today, so I've got 9 days left. Is that right? Yeah, I've got 9 days left of this year. I've got some designs that I need to finish off because they're on deadline, and they'll carry just into next year as well. But the other thing that I've done is I've gone round my house and I've pulled out all the projects that I'm not wearing for one reason or another, and I want to do something about them before the end of the year. So I have things like this pair of socks that I made because I was testing a design concept, and whilst I really love the two-tone bit that I did on the cuff up here, I just didn't put enough stretch in it, so they're really difficult to get on, and it's stopping me from wearing them. I must have realised on sock 1, because on sock 2 I didn't add it, and this one's really easy to get on, so I must have been testing a theory somewhere. I know I have got more of this yarn left, so it's a simple job. It'll maybe take me an hour or so, but I need to just rip back my work to below where the second colour is, the contrast colour. It's going to be interesting because these were sewed on from the top down, so I need to work out how I'm going to do that and whether I end up making a little bit of grafting on. I need to do a bit of research to work out my best way forward for that. But all I need to do is rip them back a little bit and do maybe 12 rows in the cuff, cast them off, and I'm done. And then I have a pair of socks ready to go. So I really want to get them sorted before the end of the year. I also have this jumper that I really enjoyed making, and I love the impact of it. I think it's like, I really enjoyed making it, but I used 2 different yarns. The one at the bottom is Appledore, which has a lot less give to it. The blue at the top is Harvest-Hughes, which is a lot springier. And basically, because of the mixture of the 2 yarns, I don't like how this jumper sits. And even though I'd done a swatch in the round of the colour work, when I washed and blocked it, it just went and it sucked right up and everything just kind of went smaller than I expected it to be. And so I think what I'm going to do, because I really like how the top half of the jumper fits, I know it seems pretty drastic, but I think I am going to cut off the rib, frog it all back to above the colour work. I have more of this yarn, and I'm just going to re-knit it just in the main colour. This is Harvest-Hughes Blackthorn by Joan Arvin Textiles, and I will just knit it longer and give myself a lovely navy jumper. I don't think I'm going to get the knitting done before the new year, but I certainly would hope to get the frogging done, reclaim the yarn, maybe find the other yarn first. That would be a good idea. And then what I'm going to do is the body first, and then work out whether the cuffs look stupid on their own without the detail down on the body. If it looks good just with the two of them, then I will probably keep the cuffs, because I don't have an issue with the way that the cuffs came out, and that would give it a bit of interest. But as it is, I never pull this out of my wardrobe because the sizing is just a bit weird. It wasn't when I blocked it. Another one, it's quite annoying, but you can see like there's cropped and then there's like too cropped. And I've tried it on with dresses and all sorts of things, and it is just too cropped. I'm quite long-limbed across the board, like legs and arms, so my proportions have to be just right, otherwise I just look stupid, and I think I look stupid in this. So I'm gonna do some work on this, reclaim it, make it into something that I want to wear, because it's beautiful yarn. I really enjoyed making it. I'm not enjoying wearing it, so time to do something about that. And then what else did I have? Right, there might be a bit of crinkling, so I will crinkle, pull it out, come back. I had started on the garden cardigan. I don't think I've ever shown you this. I think that was a year ago that I started this. It's by Anne Strake. It's a really beautiful cardigan, very wearable. I love the V detail at the back of the neck. I like how it hangs. It's got real simplicity to it. But I made a mistake on the back, and it is a teeny weeny mistake, but it's enough. I now know from the shenanigans that I had with I can't even remember what it was. I completely mucked up. Oh, the jumper with the dots on it, the sun jumper. I now know that because of that jumper, I just don't think I can bear to wear it even with the teeny weeny mistake. And I hadn't put that much work into it, so I'm gonna rip this out. In fact, you know what? I am, and I'm starting it now. Look, that's it. That is in West Yorkshire Spinners Croft in the DK, I think, and I will probably work on that this afternoon to pull it back. I will remake it. I really like it. I even swatched and everything, look, and I really like it. I will remake it. I have just sat with this for so long that I know that the mistake is too big for me to contend with. So that will get worked. That will get ripped out before the year is out. And then when I had my little moth issue and I was putting everything in the freezer, I discovered an embroidery that I had completely forgotten about, and it makes up this one. It's a craft pod kit. It's so cute. I don't even know when I started this. Maybe 2 years ago when I was on holiday on the Isle of Arran. It feels like something I might have done. I've done some of the leaf work, and I've done the little mushrooms, and there's quite a lot of work still to put into this, but I would really like to get this done. It's the kind of thing that I would add onto a project bag or something nice, like a wash bag or something. And I really genuinely enjoy doing embroidery. I've done it since I was like teeny tiny, as a 4-year-old. I was doing embroidery and cross stitch and all sorts. I was always very much into hand stitching, so it won't be too big a deal for me to get this done, and I can sit and do it at nights basically, and it gives me something that's away from crochet and knitting. So I would love to get that done. So it feels like it's a lot. That's a lot for 9 days let's see, because I haven't really got many days off. I'm working pretty much right the way through. So let's see where I get to. But that's what I would love. I would love to go into 2026 with a clean slate. Let's see if that happens. Let's see. That is everything for me. Other than to say thank you so much for being with me. I dreamt of bringing this podcast back probably about 2 years ago. And I started recording again in April of 2025, and it has been such a warming experience, and it's just lovely to come back and have these connections with you all. I really enjoy it when we're chatting in the comments. I really enjoy hearing what you're all working on and what you're up to. So tell me, what are you doing for your festivities? What are you up to? Are you out burning Yule logs like I might be tonight? I might also wassail our apple trees and toast them with some cider and hang some toast on the trees and bang the pots and pans with my nephew and just keep up some of those other traditions. What are you up to? I have really loved doing the podcast in 2025. I obviously will be back in 2026, which is going to be on the 31st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, I think. 7th of January I'll be back. Yeah, it's been a really enjoyable year, and you coming back time and time again is what makes it even more enjoyable. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sitting with me with a cup of tea or coffee or whatever you have. It's truly heartfelt appreciated. So have a fabulous festive season. Have a fabulous festive season. And given that we will have just dipped into 2026, enjoy the new year as well. Hogmanay, that's like my big celebration. I will be raising a glass on Hogmanay. Until 2026, have an amazing time. Thank you. I am waving.